Good morning, guys. All right, I'm gonna do a very quick review of this morning's trades. Was a super easy morning. We hit three trades for plus 50%, plus 51%, and then plus 123%. We just so happened to pretty much sell the bottom today, and I caught. I was at least inputs for a solid 98% of all the downside today. Actually, possibly 100 because this third trade I entered at a higher point than I sold this trade at. So was a very good day. But as far as the pre-market analysis goes, let me see. As far as the pre-market analysis goes, we were in bearish consolidation. This was a bear flag on ES and NQ. I was leaning kind of slightly bullish though, because we ran so hard overnight. We've pulled back and we're kind of bouncing now. I was personally thinking that this was just like a 38.2% retest and we were going to kind of head back up, as you can see here. However, that sentiment changed, and I sent that sentiment early in the pre-market. That changed when I learned why this run actually happened. So, as you guys know, the run happened because the Federal Trade Court ruled against Trump's tariffs. I guess saying he's not allowed to do them. I don't know. I didn't look into it too deeply. But that's what the trade court ruled, and it catalyzed this huge run. But in the back of my head, when I read that, I'm like, there's no way Trump's gonna let that stand. Like, really, I don't even know who the Federal Trade Court is. Like, honestly, and maybe I'm just not educated. Uh, but I know Trump doesn't just kind of, he didn't become a billionaire by just kind of laying down whenever there's an obstacle in his way. And so I'm like, there's no way. Turns out this morning, the White House announced that they're going to be appealing that overturn, and now the market is extremely confident that it is going to be overturned. Now, when you have a catalyst such as that, and it causes price action to do this, if that catalyst is invalidated, you can expect the price action that that catalyst caused to also be invalidated. So pretty much right around market open, my sentiment kind of drastically changed and I was bearish. Also, we had very little support. This entire thing is pretty much a fair value gap. So no support whatsoever. And yeah, my first trade I got triggered into on the first candle of market open. And it was this candle here. Pretty basic, invalidated a majority of the move. The exact same trade that I took yesterday, pretty much, not quite as exact, but pretty close to the same trade I took yesterday, and I lost money on that trade I took again today because I took that trade yesterday because on average, it is a winning trade. Just because it lost last time doesn't mean it's going to lose again. So I was triggered into this trade. NQ was weaker than ES, which is why I took NQ. And yeah, pretty much I was looking for NQ new low of day and then potentially ES new low of day. And I did just click the forward button and it did not move. Let's try again. Oh, it just moved twice. So this just exploded to the downside. This was awesome. I pretty much sold on this candle here and then sold my runners on this. All right, I'll share my screen. Um, so anyways, I sold on this candle. Was beautiful, right? Now, that was the first trade, plus 50% gains right out of the gate. I didn't even trim until 50% gains. I didn't sell a dime until ES cleared low of day because why would you sell? Like it's going straight down. What are we doing? But anyways, as far as entering another trade, now I can get in if we come all the way back up. If ES is currently a lot stronger than NQ, and if a majority of the move validates, I will take SPX calls to there. Otherwise, I can't really chase shorts. I need ES to bearishly consolidate if I'm going to get in puts again, because now we're at low of day and it's oversold. Now, clearly NQ was a lot weaker than ES. This is a potential put entry here, but ES has recently swept pre-market low. It is a broadening bottom, which is a bullish reversal pattern, but I always say I never pay attention to those patterns because they pretty much never work. So I needed ES to put in bearish consolidation. This isn't quite bearish consolidation yet, but it did invalidate the bounce. I'm like, okay, well, that's not terrible for an NQ trade. But the problem is ES is so strong, NQ is so weak. I can't tell if NQ is going to drop or ES is going to short squeeze. So it's one of the two. But we end up bouncing on ES. And right here, I said to you guys, okay, if this bounce invalidates on ES, that's bearish consolidation. I can get in, right? To QQQ puts, because QQQ is weaker than SPX, right? NQ is weaker than ES. So the second this bounce invalidates, that will be a bear pennant on ES, which is indeed bearish consolidation, which does allow me with statistical reliability to assume that it's likely to get low of day. If I enter NQ, NQ should drop more than ES. So that's kind of my excuse. And that's exactly what ended up happening. So for this second trade, you had to be quick execution-wise. But I did fill right when the body of this green candle invalidated. So before the close of the candle, like a solid 25 seconds before the candle close, I filled QQQ puts. It was roughly like up here. Now at this point, I did chart out some basic PTs. I mean, there isn't really much to work with. I had these two pivots here. They're not huge pivots by any means, but they are okay. I had these two here and on ES right there. So really I was looking for the first pivot on NQ. ES was bouncing. I was concerned that I was going to put in a falling wedge. It didn't validate on this candle though, and it did end up being beautiful. Trimmed very heavy on this candle. Was pretty much only in a runner left. Second pivot hit, which was beautiful. And then I sold the last here. So that was another 50% win. Beautiful. I didn't make as much on that trade because I entered with a little bit lighter size and I trimmed, I believe it was around 35% on that. So made less on that trade, was still a very bright green trade. And I expected to be done with this trading day now. That's two very bright green trades in a row. Fantastic morning. I literally caught pretty much all of this downside and looked great. Now, I did decide to stick around because I would still potentially be triggered into SPX calls if we didn't validate a majority of this move. I didn't want to trade again, but you know, if I did properly get triggered into something, it would be non-perfect, non-flawless psychology to sit out because that is giving into the fear of giving back money, right? That's one of the 4 fears of trading, and it would be imperfect psychology for me to just kind of call it right here while there's still potential setups on my chart. But we ended up bouncing, and actually ES ended up sweeping this level to a pivot. It was a perfect double top, but it swept this baby pivot by 1 tick and invalidated a majority of the move. I had to get in here. I actually got in on the next candle. Early on the next candle, I was a little bit green. And this was my last trade now. I was extremely light in this trade. I was getting in this trade pretty much just to say I got into it. I didn't really get into it with the, I was even less than half size. But it was a perfectly, it was a perfect trade to enter. Like it followed my edge perfectly. It's a perfectly valid trade to enter. I just really didn't want to enter it because I didn't really want to risk my gains. But regardless, you had the bearish liquidity sweep. You had a huge momentum candle to the downside, which invalidated most of the bounce. And on top of that, look at the volume of this candle. Now, this red candle on ES, which is my left chart, is the biggest candle of the day. Yet look at the volume. It's pretty small. That is extremely bearish, right? Because that tells me that this candle is pretty much filled with only sell orders. That's it. I don't know why it happened, but it happened. Super bearish volume, bearish liquidity sweep, bearish momentum. Beautiful. And I was just kind of looking for demand. Well, we chopped around a lot. I kind of thought I was going to stop out, but we didn't. And we dumped. So this was beautiful. I trimmed fairly heavy when ES got new low of day and left a runner. I sold my runner, I believe, not right here, right here. Nope. Right here. Yep. Actually, sorry. I sold more there. I had 1 runner left, and I ended up forgetting about it, and I actually closed it when I put it in this reversal candle here. Did actually end up pretty much selling the bottom, which was beautiful. But that trade actually did 123% gains. So for today, we had plus 50%, plus 51%, and then plus 123%. Obviously, I was very light on that last trade, so it's not like I made 100% of a full size trade, but it was still a very green trade and an even greener alert. All you guys had the opportunity to make a ton of money this morning. If you didn't make a ton of money, but you were trying to trade, you didn't make money because your psychology is terrible. All you have to do is stop out. It doesn't matter if you think it's going to go up. If you stop out and flip sides, you make money. But if you keep going against the trend, it's because something psychologically is wrong with you, and you need to fix that. Because nothing about this chart was bullish at any point except here. This was almost bullish. I can see a potential reversal trade entry here. But aside from that, the fundamentals were extremely bearish today. The pre-market context with the bearish consolidation. I mean, look at this. You get first leg consolidation, second leg. Market likes to move in two legs, and oftentimes it does so proportionally. The size of this first leg goes down to here. You get consolidation. There you go. Played more than that leg, right? If we were to include the entire leg, I mean, maybe you can include this if you really want to. That's the entire first leg. And you still did more than that, which is crazy. It doesn't actually look bigger than that. That's like some weird optical illusion. Yeah. Huh. I didn't actually think it dropped that far. So, very, very easy morning to make money. No support, super bearish fundamentals, very bearish price action, you know. So, as long as you don't step in front of the train a million times and honor your stop losses, should have no problem being green. But all right, does anyone have any questions regarding this morning? Because if not, that is it for this morning. Was a glorious morning. Pretty much every single person I talked to was very bright green, and we can only pray that tomorrow's the same. It's probably not going to be the same, but I would love to finish this week on a great note. Last week we finished on a break-even note. I took one trade and sold it at break-even last Friday, so hopefully tomorrow is more entertaining than last week's Friday. But very happy this week. We've been solid green, solid execution. We've been stopping out of trades flawlessly. It's been a very good week so far over the last few days. But no questions. Everyone's good. All right, sweet. Well, I sent you guys the wrong link. I accidentally posted this to the wrong YouTube channel yesterday and the uploading failed. So I'll make sure I post this to the right YouTube and I will ping you guys when the review is uploaded. But all right, you guys have a blessed rest of your day. Good luck if you continue to trade and feel free to reach out if you guys need anything. Otherwise, I'll see you guys later.